So welcome everybody to the Future of Atherys segment, where I, Taylor, creative director for Yora Games, talk with some other members of the creative team here about where we're going to be going with the Atherys product, kind of beyond Minecraft, coming up here in the very near term. So let's introduce everybody. We've got Emma.
Hello, my name is Emma. I joined a few months back and it's wonderful to be here.
And we've got Alex.
Hey, I'm Alex. I have been here for the entire Bless This Mess process. I'm happy to keep working.
Good. And we have Nash.
Hi, I am Nash. I was here at the beginning and I'll be here at the end.
Yeah, you certainly will. And again, Taylor, I've also been here since the very, very, very early days. So those days started with V1 Atherys, right? Minecraft product 10 years ago. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Like, it's been that long.
It doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't.
I still feel like I am. Yeah, that tracks.
It's true. Like when we keep coming back to it, like it's been this ongoing thing that's been like just growing and growing and growing and changing.
Yeah,
I mean, I lost track of time after high school, so it wasn't that long.
Well, no, I hear you there. But wherever we've been, for the past several years, we're now back. And working on all of this together. But those Minecraft days were foundational, right? We wouldn't be here if not for Minecraft. So it's great that we have Eons. It's great that we're looking forward to Horizons. You'll be hearing more about all of that during the live stream today. But we're going to talk about where we're going after all of that, right? So, Emma, do you want to move on to why we're all here?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to have a bit of time for us to talk about what drew us back. As we were kind of talking about just now, it's been 10 years, and for some of us, that has been a continual Atherys-themed 10 years. For me, that very much wasn't the case. I started playing and got involved in early V1, I think. So we're thinking about 2012. And then by the time 2014 kind of came around, I was on my way to university and didn't really have time anymore to sit down and play Minecraft. So I had left. And I remember, I can't even remember what the specific thing was. I think I joined the Discord server, that was the new Atherys Discord server. And there was talk of this brand new thing that was coming along called Atherys Horizons, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds fun." And in the event that I joined a few kind of weeks after was this new thing, which was Atherys Aeons. It's probably about autumn of last year, and I thought, yeah, actually, it's been a while, but there's no part of Atherys that has ever really left me. All of those kind of stories and memories and even like the intimate knowledge of the way that the universe works has kind of like stuck with me. I don't know, is that something that everybody else has felt like that?
Yeah, I definitely have a pretty similar feeling. I remember back in, it must have been 2011 when we got started, like the foundational stuff, and you messaged me on Skype. And you asked if I wanted to come work on a new Minecraft server that you were involved in, and they were looking for someone to write for them, and they said they wanted a fun fantasy story to set it to, and I said, okay, I'll join as long as it doesn't take too long.
How far we've come.
Every moment of the next 10 years has just been kind of soaked in Atherys. Even stepping away from it, I keep coming back to it because I can't stop thinking about it. And there were intensely productive fits. Like every other year, we just come back to it and ride up a storm, and then just and I guess I just couldn't ever really stay away. And this felt like such a cool opportunity especially with everyone else here, like to really bring the best of the Atherys brains all together in one place. How could I pass that on?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm right there with you. Like, I'm listening to y'all talk about it, and I'm still just kind of in shock that it really has been 10 years since all of that, or since, before that, 10 and a half years, right? Like you said, Nash, with starting in October of 2011 on that. Of course, you and I've been friends for years before even that, right? Yeah. So it just, it's like, it started as such an innocuous thing. And then now here we are all this time later, basically cannot stop thinking about it. And I think I'm the same as y'all. It's just like, I hear about, how things are going. Of course, I've been keeping up with Horizons, all that, but I hear about Eons, and it just seemed like time to return. I had to leave some time ago to start real life, but it's like, well, all right, real life is boring now. I gotta go back and play elf games some more. So, here we are. What about you, Alex? You've been here for a while, right? You've stuck around through the whole thing?
Yeah. I joined January 2013, together with hundreds of other people.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I remember this.
I do too.
Yeah.
The influx.
That was when the server was down for like a full week, constantly full.
Yeah. The glory days, right? The glory days.
I think I joined the Scribes at the time, that same year.
Yeah.
What got you excited about it in the first place, if you don't mind me asking?
Like, for me, it was just expansive world building in a game that I had seen evolve from having one animal, no mobs, and just blocks. And the concept that someone could tell a story within that sort of tool set was very fascinating to me.
Absolutely. And one of the things that drew me in kind of by its teeth was this concept of collaborative world building, collaborative creation of stories within this shared universe. And I still have not found a medium that has been able to do it as well as Atherys has. All the way back to the first ever lore story that I wrote about the Aetherian calendar to like these last few weeks where we've kind of been hashing out the finer details of Aetherian philosophy. It's been that collaborative storytelling is absolutely one that I vibe with, Alex, definitely.
Yeah, it's also been a journey of figuring out sort of, at some point we had the original material, Taylor had to leave, and we had to figure out, okay, what do we do with this now? For probably 6 years.
More or less, yeah.
And then sort of returning and now going back over everything with a new vision in mind is also really interesting. And no longer necessarily inhibited by a game from 2011.
Yeah, that's the whole point, right? So, let's segue, right? Like, Nash, tell us about this whole rebuild thing we've been doing.
Absolutely. So this is like the coolest thing that we've been working on, in my opinion. In the background, the narrative team has all been really digging into everything, almost every topic that can be imagined in the Atherys universe, whether it was written on day one or whether it was something that we stumbled across along the way, is being re-examined and sort of seeing what do we want to keep, what do we want to tweak, what's a little outdated, what has new potential. And it's been a super exciting process. Like, no stone is being left unturned, and we are constantly finding new possibilities that are so unexpected and wild, but I'll save those examples for later. But let's just say we're really getting it into shape for something new, something way past the limits of what we could have done before.
Yeah, totally agree. And it's worth emphasizing that nothing is sacred either, right? Like, obviously, the core of Atherys is and will forever remain, right? But things that were written in the very early V1 days, which are near and dear to my heart, certainly, and I know, many of y'all could use another look, right? And so things like that are being weighed just the same. It's like Alex said, right, across 6 years, that we've had, let's see, pre-V1 ideas that didn't quite make it. We have V1 ideas. We have V2 ideas. We have Evo ideas. We have the split from after Evo when I started writing on the website less about Minecraft. And then we have Eons. And then we have Horizons. And then we have 3 or 4 different lore masters from the Horizons. So like we've got like damn near a dozen different tweaks on the universe to kind of reconcile and pull the best from each, right? And it's been stressful at times and heated at times. Certainly, people really like what they like, and I love that. But it's been so exciting to be involved in all of this with, you know, all of y'all and the rest of the team who's been so deeply involved in this for 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, if arguments... Oh, yeah. If there were no arguments, it wouldn't be worth writing. Right?
No, absolutely not.
Be passionate about it. If
it's just a sign that we like care.
Right.
One of the things that really... Oh no! One of the things that really excites me is you know, most of us play D&D or write in our own kind of capacities. We all do our own kind of individual world building, but the fact that so many hands have touched this Atherys, so many people have taken it on, and each of those people have molded it and shaped it in a way that makes it infinitely better. And we have that wealth of material and ideas and experiences and time to draw on. We have a literal decade worth of content to sift through, and
no kidding.
By God, that is one hell of a challenge, but it is a good one.
It's rewarding.
I would estimate we've had at least 40 people and several thousand man-hours poured into this by now.
Oh, yeah.
So sifting through all that, going over it, cherry-picking to a creative vision has been a process.
But it's been really cool, though, because like it's not just that we're like... I may be a little more ruthless than some people when it comes to criticizing my own work, but a big part of it, though, is that we are also breathing new life into stuff that really didn't get a chance to shine before.
Yeah.
So just getting to take old ideas that, you know, just needed a little more work or a new perspective, it's like, I feel like we really are just bringing everything forward a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I think you're saying that it's 40 people, and that's 40 people kind of amongst teams that have touched it, but there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have shaped the world in kind of unbelievable ways. The way that we perceive certain elements of Atherys are fundamentally changed by the way that players and community have interacted with it.
That's right.
Oh yeah, how people set up their governments way back in V1, then had to figure it all out again in V2 and Evo.
Oh, yeah.
Had to figure it all out again in Aeons. That's the nature of this project, is we give people something, but that gift is not ours. It belongs to the players who shape it, mold it, and turn it into something new.
Yeah, it's our job just to give the best material we can.
That's right. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's drill down. So we've talked about broadly the great reconciliation that we've been doing with Rebuild, right? But what are we doing with Atherys? Why are we focusing in on it so much with certain themes and directions that we want to go? Alex, do you want to cover some of that?
Yeah, I think for me, when I got into this, it was always gods and people. And what we're really doing right now is just re-examining the relationships between gods and the people they ruled over and the people they influenced. And even in some cases, the people that ended up killing them. This entire story is one that is so integral to the Atherys experience that it really warranted more time, effort, and care being put into it, especially now that we're not angsty teens anymore who have these old ideas that we liked when we were maybe 15 and it sounded cool, and now we're grown-ups and it's like, yeah, that could really use some work to get with the times.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Like, you can feel like our themes have expanded, like, from the original. Like, gods and people is still, like, the core. Like, how do these relationships between gods and people function, and how do they break down, and how do people live normal human lives under the under when the metaphysical is also physical and real.
Right.
But then also, like, we've all had so many more life experiences since we started. So it's like, I was like, can we write about love? Yes. Can we write about Instagram? Yes. Can we write about, like, things that feel more real, like hope and change and disappointment and
I think that's
all these things.
That's been one of the things that I've really loved picking up on is how our kind of ideas and our perceptions have kind of matured. And my favourite example of this is when we were looking at Vesa and Nios as kind of originally, they wanted to be together, but then they ended up this twisted, horrible mass and nobody could look on them. And then during Rebuild, we were like, but what if they're just girlfriends? Like, what if it's like a really beautiful union, and exploring that joy in that world, I think has been a real pleasure for me, because I think the theme for fantasy at the moment is dark and grim and hyper realism, and there's very little room for joy and celebration and love, and I think whatever we can do to carve that out is wonderful.
And there's still room for darkness. I think refocusing on the human element and the emotional core of it, rather than I think that's something that's been really fun.
I think it's also the human experience in many ways, right? We know now that we have an additional 10 years of life experience. We've gone through some things ourselves, and we can much better translate that to our writing. And I think that has defined this entire process over the past few months, is us coming together and being like, okay, this was really good 10 years ago. But now that we look back, there's so many more things that we can change, that we can tell stories in ways that better show the more human side of gods and the more divine aspects of humanity.
You got it.
That's such a good way to put it.
All three of y'all have hit on this, and it's my biggest takeaway working with y'all on Rebuild. And it's like, Emma, to your point about the twins, right? Oh, before it was, a story that ended in terrible tragedy, and now it's one that actually may or may not end up in triumph, which has its own good and bad connotations flipped a bit to tell fun stories with. But it's like looking for the good in things and making the gods more mutable. Like, all of our stories have been human-centric. Atherys is a human story, right? Like, at its core, that's what we're telling, is human experiences, like you said, Alex. But we can tell those with the gods, too. We can give them more. We can give them more interactions. We can find out what they are as characters. It's better writing, but it also lets us talk about things, about people and about experiences, without literally just putting a person in every role, because they're, gods are people too in Atherys, I guess, right?
I think this is what sets some of the work that we're doing apart, is that the gods are not some abstract concept that may or may not exist. They are characters that interact with the world and with the people, or don't, and that in itself is obviously the key turning point when we're looking at stuff like Second Calling. And I've really loved exploring those kind of interactions.
Yeah, I think that even stuff like re-examining Yora and re-examining like the foundational stuff of the universe, of just like it's been such a key element for us to keep an eye on, like, so we say, like, God of strife. What does that mean? What does that mean to be the god of something like that? And the answers are always like kind of interesting and often unexpected, and like reveal new sides of these characters that where before it was just a title. Now it is like, this is a core aspect, not just of them, but of the people who interact with them and how the universe works, which is fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think it definitely shows as well sort of that idea of these are their domains, and it shapes the gods, but the gods also shape those domains.
Yeah.
And that's something big. That when we look back, we didn't really have that. They were static words defined like in a dictionary. That is who they were. Yeah. Now they have depth.
Yeah, it affects the people around them, and sometimes in more literal ways than others, but all the time it's just like it feels more real, like it's like a more rich sort of interconnected thing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
how people affect them.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, it's a feedback loop that is worth exploring, and that's where the fun stories come from, and that's where our future is, right? And so let's talk about that too a little bit, right? Since I guess that's the whole point of this particular segment, is talking about where we're going from here. And the short answer is we want to tell our stories, right? And we want to involve as many players as possible in those stories and give them a foundation from which to build their own tales and all that. None of that is changing. That's the way it's been in Minecraft. That's the way it will yet be. That's what we want to do with our products and projects going forward, right? And so we're discussing, Emma, you mentioned D&D earlier. We're discussing that. You'll hear more from Tom and them about that here shortly. We're discussing card games, board games, video games, ostensibly, although, of course, such a thing is going to take a little more time with that, so bear with us. Just basically any creative outlet that we can get that still maintains that this is a multiplayer experience. This is something you bring your friends into. These are the tools with which you can tell your own stories, right?
Yeah.
I'm so excited to do just that, to bring my other friends into it. The friends who don't engage with Minecraft or don't engage with video games, who but I want to share what has been a huge part of my life for a long time, and a huge part of my development, saying, look at this thing that we did. Isn't it great?
It's real.
Yeah.
And you can play it with me,
I've
right?
not hallucinated this thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, it's about it's not just about having the thing on the shelf, right? Although as a collector, of course, I love that sort of thing. It's about going, here's a way that I can bring more people into this, my friends, my family, other people who are just interested in it, right? Just expanding the scope of where we're telling our tales, right?
I think a big part of that is also that we've all grown up. And we like sharing these things with people that we know, and until now, it's very much been an obscure thing that would be hard to introduce, and we're now moving towards something where we can proudly put our names on it and say, I made this, or I helped shape this.
Yeah.
Like an Atherys card game. That's something you can show anyone and say, I made this. Like an Atherys board game or D&D. Well, maybe not D&D adventure, but to anyone cool you could show that to and they would go, rad.
We've also, of course, we're taking on the swing of people figuring out that it is really fun to do things with friends. Especially in like these times now. Like without saying
in
it too obviously.
Complicated times.
But like people have started to rediscover that part of like playing games with each other, and that is at the end of the time the goal of any creative project is to share it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And isn't that, I mean, not to get too sappy about it, but that's fantasy, right? Fantasy is letting yourself live in magic. It's about like seeing something unexpected and seeing new directions and being able to engage with that has been so precious for people. And it's, I don't know, I think it's a good thing to rediscover. I think it's a good thing to dive into. It's just like we're trying to make something that feels vivid and magical and unexpected and fresh. So, yeah.
Here I thought fantasy was getting a good night's sleep. But no, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's sort of this idea of getting away from normality and engaging with something that you enjoy. And let it be Atherys, let it be a card game, let it be just a video game or watching a movie with friends.
Yeah.
I'll take the opportunity then. Y'all are obviously we're all on the same page about how person-centric we want all of our future stuff to be. Some of the ideas that we're throwing around, with respect to card games, there's one in particular. We'll unveil more about it later if it even sticks. We're still early days, but the notion would be take on the role of a noble house in Alaray. right? And you and all of your friends are together arguing for the future of its government at a particular point in history. And so setting aside, it's about those interactions, right? Like Alex, like you just said, it's, you know, scheming under the table with your friends and yelling and shouting and having fun about your successes and your failures, like together, even though there's still
speeches.
Yeah, exactly.
Like stabbing them in the back.
Yeah,
as friends do.
Stabbing them in the front.
To the surprise of nobody who has known me in Atherys, I am beyond excited.
Yeah,
The prospect of an Alloy-centric card game.
Oh yeah, it seems like such a natural fit for a game where you want to be engaging with people more than just even what the cards would tell you to do, right? And so those are the kind of experiences we're looking for here in the near term.
A way to replay out my Lector General fantasies.
There you go.
Yep, we'll just have a deck of cards, king, queen.
Too many jokers.
Just 26 king and queen cards.
That's fine.
All right.
And then just a few jokers to spice things up.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about how we got there to these ideas that we're having now, right? Like, obviously, they came from our rebuild conversations. Most of the chats that we've been having as a group have been in those. Emma, what were you saying? There was a time where we were doing 4 meetings a week, something like 8 hours per person for a while. It was wild, right? But like serious business. And so some things came up during those events, some stories. Nash, have you thought of any that you might like to share?
Very much so.
Okay.
Obviously, every single one of these meetings is when you get a lot of very clever, creative people in a room, and you manage to stoke that energy to a certain point, it just gets completely bonkers. To the point where some of the things that we've discussed with a great deal of vivid imagery, I'm not allowed to actually mention on the program today. But one thing I do feel comfortable mentioning is the Archipelago, which is such a perfect example of something that came completely, I don't want to say out of nowhere, it came specifically out of the genius mind of one of our coworkers. Sunny, is that right?
Yeah.
And so, like, we were looking at Alaka, and it was just such a perfect example of something that, how familiar are people with Alaka even? If you aren't aware, they were this underwater themed god that had their own, or dragon rather, that had their own sort of following of fish people. It was a mess. They ate souls. They dated Dorad Muth. It was a mess.
That was complicated.
I'm so ready for the high school AU.
Oh God!
Oh my God! Yes. So that's the ongoing.
that is very much subcanon.
We can bring that up too. But the Archipelago, we were just talking about trying to describe what this character looked like, even if we wanted to do anything with them. Like, was there anything there? And we were talking about, what if they were like, I don't know, craggy, like an island, and someone just said Archipelago, and it was just like, oh my God. And we ended up in this spot where, as we riffed on this idea of an island chain that is itself a living dragon that you know, is itself teeming with life, that is itself an ocean ecosystem, like in its completeness. And it ended up going in such an unexpected direction. Everyone was talking over each other. It was so thrilling just to be in the room in that moment.
And we didn't start off talking about land masses or anything like that. That whole conversation started with, how do we differentiate between, like, for real, between the dragons and the gods, and what are these dragons that we're doing? And some of them have, okay, the thing that they've got going, the natural force, that makes sense, that works, but some don't. And Alaka was like water, but that doesn't make it, and all of that. And so what literally this whole conversation got us around to, well, he can just be the dragon of life, right? And people can live on him and worship him, and he's just chill about, and it's okay.
As life emerged from the ocean and is still just full of so many weird things, like, we wanted a creature that kind of represented that whole process and how colorful and strange and enormous it is. And so they're the living landmass now, and that's so much more exciting than they ever had been before.
Still keeping the beard. Still keeping the beard.
Then, of course, there's the AUs.
We have to.
The Instagram baddies AU,
my favorite,
for a lot of our has allowed us to reinvent a lot of our characters in extremely
extreme ways.
Yes. So just for context, maybe you're familiar. Like a lot of times when you're working on creative like groups and things, you can find value in not talking about what you're actually talking about for a little while, and you can come up with these little side scenarios to characterize your figures and to kind of understand your plot lines. And so when we're talking about these AUs, the Instagram one is we used to have all the kids go to Burger King for Yolu's son's birthday party, and Shoal eats the whole cake and the whole thing. Like, this has long been a staple of Atherys, but the Instagram one is my new favorite far and away. Who wants to kind of step through the Instagram baddies?
Again, who was the first of the team? Was it Hot Leias?
I think it has.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It might have been Fomorian, actually, because we were trying to figure out what to do about the celebration angle there. It was it had to be them, right?
We were talking about the party angle.
Yeah.
With Fomorian starting the party, and then what role does each god have
there you
at
go.
This party?
There you go.
Yeah, that's right.
There it is.
And one of the
it basically ended up one starts the party, one picks you up after the party and tells you, have you learned from this experience? The other one makes sure that you OD. It's all kinds of crazy attributes were ascribed to a variety of gods and then worked on later into something more salient and more sensical.
Probably the biggest reinvention, the biggest glow up, if I might, would probably be Hot Leias. Herleias, for those who don't remember, is a god of an arena god of. They're so memorable that I'm honestly kind of stalling out here trying to remember what their old characterization was. They were a sad arena labyrinth based god of. Well, they didn't have a country anymore, and it was sad. And they were bad.
Yeah.
But now they're bad in a way that's cool and sexy.
Yeah, they're bad with 2 Ds now.
Yeah, they're bad in a way that's hype. Basically, we've reinvented this character. Anyone can take over at any point, but we've reinvented this character to be someone who's all about the spectacle, the glory, the full-on unhealthy obsession with being in the arena coated in blood, screaming at God, and in that moment transcending all your limits. That is the ecstatic state of our new Herleias.
If it would make a good legend, Herleias wants in.
Yeah.
That's
and for Herleias, a good legend does necessarily involve a lot of violence, blood, decapitations. Just about it's like taking it to the next level. It's like taking it to 11's boring. We've all taken it to 11. Who wants to hit the knob with a hammer and then eat the stereo?
Hot Leias really puts the arts in arterial spray.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's solid.
That's pretty good.
And it's crucial. It doesn't matter if you win for Hot Leias or not. Ravonna cares about victory. Herleias just cares about having a good time. If it's a show, Herleias is in, right?
So we pulled inspiration from professional wrestling and all sorts of ridiculous martial arts and just wacky movies with huge characterizations and the kind of stuff just imagine sitting back with a glass of fine wine and turning on Glow and just letting it wash over you. Wine mixed with mescaline, I don't know, but just really enjoying it.
Perfect.
I think we joke a bit about Hot Leias and our Instagram baddies, but these conversations have hugely shaped the way that we'll be looking at these characters in future projects. In a way that I won't spoil for want of secrecy, but you will almost definitely see some of these characters in upcoming projects, and they are better because of the absolute maddening stories that we've told that will mostly stay within the confines of those chats.
Too true.
We can tell you all about Shayla's latest Instagram post, but we won't. Instead, we'll use that as the foundation for, why do she and Orvazu get along in the way that they do or don't, as the case may be. And, that helps us move forward without getting bogged down too much in the like and dislike ratio.
Now, speaking of future projects, and speaking of stories that have thus far remained untold, Taylor, don't you have something you want to say?
I do, yeah. So
you look like you want to reveal something.
I always want to reveal something about Atherys. It's just been 10 years of trying not to.
Classic expression of a man who wants to reveal.
Yeah, I'm not even going to question it. So, obviously, we've been hinting at a lot of surprises coming down the line, right? You can look forward towards the end of the summer to some big announcements, some new things that'll be sort of platform related, a way for us to start sharing these stories on a more regular basis and all of that. So do please look forward to that. We're all really excited about that nondescript future. But to a more specific point, we as a group have long wanted to try and do a podcast of some description, right? Like, folks may remember, Anvil's Lore Corner from back in the day, the various other iterations and names of that, and then, with the other team members as well. But it just kind of feels like it's time to do it again. With the way Rebuild has gone, and we're going to start telling these stories again soon, and we'll have our platforms to do it. It's time to have a podcast, don't you think, Nash?
I can't stop thinking about Atherys, and I can't stop talking about Atherys, and I'm ready to make that the problem of our audience.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it's time for a podcast. And exactly what the format looks like we'll be seeing. It will probably be Nash and myself talking about a particular topic for the day, fairly brief, fairly digestible. And then we'll have a special guest on from the team or beyond. We'll see how it goes. But definitely look forward to that before the end of the summer. We'll start doing that. So join us and make Atherys your problem too, as Nash says.
I want that one on mad.
Atherys is now your problem too.
Yeah.
I like that. That can be a Patreon reward or something. Plug Patreon.
Yeah, actually, we need to get on the merch.
We've got to get on the merch. We've got buy merch. We have Atherys merch. It's all by the socks, by the Ithro Duck mug. It's fabulous. It's very, very good. Look forward to more of that in the future as well.
Cufflinks, tie pins.
We might have to do the Instagram baddies on a t-shirt or something at some point. Like with
that would be fun.
That stuff is definitely allowed to cross the barrier. All right. Well, this has been really fun. Thank y'all for calling in and having a chat about this with us. I hope everybody who's watching is as excited as we clearly are about all of this as well. It's going to be a fun summer. It's going to be a good year. There's going to be a lot of good stuff to look forward to this year, so I can't wait to share it all with y'all.
Yeah, I can't wait to get in trouble with everyone else.
Good.
And when we do these discussions and we work on this project, because without problems, why are we here?
Very well said.
Just to ring in the live chat. Do you want to have one more screaming argument about dragons?
No.
I think I got to be honest with you. There's nothing I would like less.
All right. We'll save it for the podcast. Look forward to episode 1.
Yes, we're gonna come right out of the gate.
How dare you?
All right. All right. We'll see y'all later. Enjoy the live stream.